Welcome to the Successfully Unemployed Show. My name's Dustin Heiner, and I'm here to help you quit that J.O.B, that just over road job, by any means possible. And I'm super pumped to bring on a fantastic person, friend of mine, on the show. He is an amazing human being. And on top of that, he's going to be taking over the Successfully Unemployed podcast. And the reason why I'm bringing him on now and having him take over the show is because he's a public speaker, terrific guy. He's extremely strong. We met in the gym. And from that, he's shown me that he is well equipped to take over the Successfully Unemployed podcast to help people to become successfully unemployed. I have a fantastic human being, Roger Wesley, on the show. Hey, Roger, thanks so much for being here, man.
Wow, thanks so much for having me. It truly is a pleasure.
This is tremendous, having the idea that I started a podcast, Successfully Unemployed, to help people to get unemployed.
Mm-hmm.
And my process was documenting what I've already done.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas now we have you, you're in the process of being successfully unemployed, and you're going to be documenting as you do it. So people have already listened to me explaining what I've done as well as interviewing people. And then now we're having you, you're in the process of becoming successfully unemployed. And they're going to be able to see every single step, but then also listen in on the conversations that you're having with experts. As you're learning, they're going to be learning. So this is tremendous. So Roger, tell me a little, you have children that are adorable and amazing.
Wow.
With that, you have an amazing wife. You got married in 19 days after meeting your wife. How did that happen?
Wow. Thanks so much for having me on the show, Dustin. I really appreciate it. And I'm so excited to be taking this over. It truly is an honor and a privilege. But, getting to the story of my wife. So it was really amazing, actually. 5 years before I met my wife, I decided that I wanted to be married. So I wrote out the values that I wanted my wife to have. I drew a picture, if you will, of what I wanted her to look like, what her values were going to be, what her belief systems were going to be. And I was just praying that, Lord, this is a woman that I would like to marry. So, as I started going out there and, at about that 3 or 4 year time period, I was like, is this really working? There's been a lot of controversy around, should you make a list? Should you not make a list? I've heard people say ditch the list, but, that last year I actually met my wife. I said, you know what? This is a year. I'm walking out in faith. I will be married this year. And I just started taking some action. So I started swinging from every angle. I was doing online dating. I was going to different locations, trying to meet people. And the day I met my wife, I actually was at a park. And I was speaking to a gentleman and his wife, and we had a great conversation. I ended up leaving that conversation, and I went to my car. But when I came back from my car, that gentleman had spoken to my now current wife and said, hey, tell your husband, Roger, I said bye. And she's like, Roger, who's that guy? She didn't even know my name. So I walked back.
You guys hadn't even met too.
We had
just saw two people,
right,
and thought you guys were married.
Absolutely. So after I left that conversation with him, I went over to the area where she was at, and I was there for maybe a minute or so. But then I, immediately went back to my car. So when I came back, she said, hey, that guy just said.
She said that to you?
She said that she's talking to me.
That's wow.
She's like, hey, that guy over there, he said, tell your husband bye. And I said, well, we're not married, obviously. You don't even know my name. I said, what's your name? And that was our formal introduction. I found out her name. She found out my name. And believe it or not, the rest is history.
Wow. And in 19 days. Absolutely. But I totally get it, because you had a criteria. No, it's not. That's a loaded term. Like, people understand what they have their own interpretation of what criteria means, but you knew what you wanted. That's basically what it came down to.
Absolutely.
You knew what you were looking for, and then you started looking for it.
Absolutely.
And said, like, how can I find this? Now, I found same thing in like financial independence, starting a business, investing in real estate. I knew what I wanted in financial independence. I knew that I had to replace my income. So there's like a checklist of like, I have to hit this mark, I have to hit this mark, but I've already thought about it beforehand. It's like having a mindset set up that you're having something to reach for or a goal to attain. And so tell me about that idea for you as you are on the path to becoming successfully unemployed, that idea of also having a list, criterias, or just having a goal and knowing what you're going after.
Absolutely. And, one thing I wanted to share there too is, one thing that I really appreciate about this was that, when I first met you, you were a man of faith. And that spoke to me highly because I'm also a man of faith. And, when I'm looking at that story of meeting my wife in 19 days, what we decided to do is we decided to commit on the front end that even though we may not know everything about each other, after 19 days, we're going to be together. We're going to get married on the front end, and we're going to make it work on the back end. And in the pursuit of becoming successfully unemployed, I have the same mindset, right? I plan to be successfully unemployed no matter what. I'm committing to it, and then I'm going to take whatever steps necessary to get to that process. So I'm going to do whatever I can to make sure that happens. So in fact, meeting you has been integral. You have opened up so many doors for me and helped me to connect to different people, to be able to expand my influence and expand the value that I have in the marketplace. But what is so cool is that once you commit, it makes it so much easier. Right. If you're 99% sure that you're going to do something, that 1% is going to creep up and it's going to destroy the other 99%. So in the pursuit of becoming successfully unemployed, I decided 100% that, you know what, I'm going to make this happen no matter what. And then boom, look, God opens up doors. I meet people like yourself. Here we are recording this podcast. Here we are working together on other ventures, and things have started falling into place.
And with basically committing to something, you have to have the determination, the grit to push through when it's hard, and also know that, well, you're not going to let yourself down, at least as best you can. Like, you're going to work through it because the hard times are going to come. Now, your life probably hasn't been perfect. You probably had some hard times. So what has happened in your life, in your history of being alive, that's helped you to get to this point? Like, tell us a little bit more about you and the things that have got you to where you are now.
Wow, that's a loaded question, Dustin. I tell you what, but I'll give you the 2 to 3 minute version. Really, when I came to Phoenix, Arizona, which is where I met you, it's just like Oregon Trail. When I was a kid, there was this game called Oregon Trail on the computer, and we played it, and it was a search for gold. And I left Louisiana coming to the West looking for gold, looking for opportunities. And when I got there, I didn't really know anyone. I was a single parent at the time, and I was just doing anything I possibly could to be able to figure out a way to make it out in this big world. And, crazy enough, I ended up getting the opportunity to work for this company. And the reason why I became an entrepreneur, the reason why I am here where I am today, is because I couldn't get a 50-cent raise from that company. I went from like last in the company to number 4 in the company. And I said, hey guys, I've been doing really well for you all. Could I get a 50-cent raise? And they would not give me that 50-cent raise. So that led me on a journey of going out and doing new things. I totaled my car a couple weeks later. Couldn't get a car, so I went to Lyft. Oh, I could drive a car and use their car and get paid. Did that, started making connections, met some very successful people, met you a couple of years later, and then had the blessing and opportunity to be able to start a company inspired to Excell, which now helps companies to increase their performance by shifting from a culture of me to we. And the whole journey along the way has contributed to now what I do in my business. So all those struggles, all those different things of, not being able to get that raise, having to figure out how to do Lyft, having to figure out how to start all these different businesses. And in the midst of all of that, coming to Phoenix, not knowing anyone, being homeless for 64 days at the beginning of that whole endeavor. So it's been a lot, but that's the really quick, short version. So hopefully that answers your question.
Oh, it definitely does. And your life since so for everybody, for you listening, Roger and I met at the gym. We were lifting weights. You guys know that I like to lift weights. I love exercising. And he, standing across me lifting, he looks over and says, hey, you're wearing a shirt that says, it wasn't the Successfully Unemployed shirt, it was a money shirt. And he says, hey, tell me about that shirt. So you started the conversation. If you hadn't done that, if you hadn't stepped out of your comfortable zone, you might be great at and really enjoy doing that, but some people might not. But you took the initiative to say, I want to at least try to talk to somebody. And who knows, my life might change. But now, fast forward, now you're emceeing the Real Estate Wealth Builders Conference. That's every single year we have the Real Estate Wealth Builders Conference, and it moves cities every single year just to help people invest in real estate. So in 2025, you are the MC. You're the
Absolutely.
MC because you're a public speaker. I was like, you know what? I think you're going to be fantastic at emceeing. You're already investing in real estate. You bought your first property. You're going to get your next one. And on top of that, you've been a part of Master Passive Income and everything that we've done. I was like, this is going to be a really, really good fit. But it all started from you just stepping out and say, I'd love to talk. I'd love to know more about you. So what would your suggestions be, or even like insights, if somebody is not necessarily insecure, that's not the right way to say it, but like they don't think to step out and talk to somebody, or see somebody right across the street and say, you know what, that might be a good person to talk to, or just start a conversation that they never would have had?
Absolutely. This is actually one of my passion topics because, what I've found is that opportunity often comes dressed up in overalls and it looks like work. And so oftentimes the opportunity is not as hard as we make it in our brain. We've just predetermined that it's going to be more difficult. So when I first moved here to Phoenix, I didn't know anyone. So I had a choice. Either I could be a recluse and just try to figure out everything on my own and just try to do my own thing, or I could ask people questions, say, hey, do you have directions here? How can I find this? And around the time when I met you, I was very curious because it was 9:30 on a Tuesday and you were in the gym, and I had seen you already for a couple of weeks, and you show up at 9 and you're starting your workout at 9 and you're very, well kept. You didn't look like you couldn't afford to
Homeless?
be there.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
Right. You didn't look
Yeah.
like you were homeless at all. So I was like, hey, you're always here at 9:30. You piqued my curiosity. So the first step is to show up in the right place. Put yourself in the right place where you can be found, right? When I picked that location, that gym, I chose it before I met you because I saw there were a lot of successful people going there. There were a lot of doctors, a lot of business people. And while I wasn't those, I didn't have those levels of success at that time, I said, these are the people that I want to associate with. The second thing is speaking up for yourself.
Oh, yeah.
Right? So many people I found are deathly afraid of talking to people. It's been said that, people are 93% of the population is more afraid of public speaking than they are of death. That means that 93% of people would rather talk to no one and just die.
Me as an extrovert, that just seems rather weird, but I totally understand it.
Absolutely. And then from that moment in time, I was working on some projects back then, and I actually approached you and said, hey, would you like to take part of this, business I'm working on? So the third step would be want to be in other people's lives, right? Because that business was a business all about service. And while you didn't have a need at the time, you politely declined, but I continued to see you in the gym, and we just developed a relationship over time, very organically. And I really think that those are the keys: showing up, speaking up for yourself, and then having a desire to serve other people or wanting to be in their lives.
And so it's also interesting. So those are 100% keys. But from my point of view, as you were talking to me, and I love helping people, I love serving people. And if you have that approach in life, then more things are going to happen better for you, but then also for the other people that you're serving. But when you said, hey, I have a business opportunity I'd love to talk with you about, would you want to get some coffee sometime? Normally, if anybody said, Dustin, I want your time, it's a no. It's a no. I got family. I got everything. Because I get that asked all the time, I want your time. And so in the end, I'm like, I really don't have the time to do it. But I said, I'll give anybody at least one time, one shot to see what happens. And when I went to that, because I was like, you know what? Somebody gave me a shot. Somebody gave me time. Like it's better to give. It's better to give than receive. And with being able to just say, I want to serve other people. I don't know this person. Who knows? Maybe there's something that we can help each other out. If you approach life instead of having a scarcity mindset where you think the world's out to get me, it's fight or flight, kill or be killed, then that's what you're going to get. But if you have an approach of a abundance, like everything's out to help me, like the world is out to help me, people are out to help me, then you're going to see it in that regard, and better things are going to happen. And so now we have you taking over the Successfully Unemployed show, which is so terrific because I personally am running out of time. I don't have enough time to do that. And I still want everybody to grow and become successfully unemployed. What is your path to becoming successfully unemployed? Like, just like finding your wife 19 days later, boom, we got it. Absolutely. Hopefully you're going to make this, and 19 days later, you're financially employed, or financially successful employed. Probably not going to work that easily. But what is your path now? Is it public speaking? Is it real estate? A combination of both, helping businesses?
Absolutely. So that's a great question. So, as a man of faith, there's this joke that goes around in the spiritual community. And the joke goes is that we make our plans, then God laughs. Right? According to my plan, I would have been, successfully unemployed years ago. And the plan has ever evolved from year to year to year. And I've heard it said very recently I believe it was with the CEO of NVIDIA when he was asked about his goals and his planning methods and how many things he focuses on at a time. And I used to have this grandiose plan. It's going to happen exactly like this at this time frame, at this plan. But this is what I know. Once I really figured out what my strength zone was here about a year and a half ago, which was speaking and encouraging and adding value to other people, I have found that if I stay within my strength zone, that I'm going to be able to eliminate the need to worry about money. So what has that led to? Well, the way I became a public speaker was I used to do door-to-door solar. And the way I started doing door-to-door solar was I met a gentleman in the gas station. He was a nice, friendly guy, and we started a conversation, and he said that he made $10,000 a day. I said, how did you do that? What ended up happening was the next day we sat down for coffee. The next day after that, we started working together. And in a short time period, we earned a lot of money. We ended up building a company. But every single day while we were building this company together, we were just very uplifting and very encouraging. And the installer, the company that was actually, facilitating the panels and the installation, they came back to me a few months later, or about a year later, said, hey, can you come back and speak to our organization? And I didn't think anything of it, but the reason why they came back was because of my consistent, uplifting, encouraging attitude. So what I found was that one of my strengths is to encourage and to uplift people. So to answer your question on what my plan is to add as much value as possible through public speaking, through helping different businesses and organizations. The nature of my business, Inspire to Excel, is to go and help businesses and to help companies to be able to expand and to be able to increase their impact in the world. So my plan of action is to help more people. I have a goal to impact millions of lives. And I know that once I get to impacting even 500,000 lives, money will be eliminated. So my goal is to increase my engagement in the marketplace by helping people through public speaking, also helping people and adding value through investing in real estate properties, single family homes specifically, as well as commercial projects that are local to my area, and adding value everywhere I go.
That's fantastic. And adding value, that's not something that most people think about, is how do I add value? How do I give something so that somebody's going to want it? Because if you don't add value, then you're just taking. I hate that. What role does family play in your life? And how does that help you to see, man, there's a goal where I'm trying to go after. Does that help? Does that inspire you that you have some family, people that are depending on you?
That's a great question, Dustin. And I think it would be a good time to share what my values are and to share for the listeners that are out there. So, when I decided to be married, those 5 years before I met my wife, I came up with some values that were core to me and who I was. And the very first value is my faith, right? Follower of Jesus Christ. So grateful for salvation. That is my first value. My next value is my marriage. Before I got married, I made it a commitment that my number 2 value was going to be my marriage. So that means I wasn't going to date around. I wasn't going to put myself in precarious situations. I was committed to that second value. The third value are my kids, right? My family, right? The fourth value after that is loving my neighbor, right? My fifth value is being debt-free. Personally, right? Maybe not so much in business, right? Sometimes it's not always feasible, right? My sixth value is ongoing income, and my seventh is generosity. So when you ask me how family plays into it, it's my third value. It's my second and my third value. So it ties into everything that I do. So for example, you and I have had the opportunity to travel to different places. If it's been possible feasibly financially, then I've invited my family to come along as well, right? I've made sure that every decision that I make points back to values 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. And when I put my decisions up against that value marker, it makes life easy because it's not hard to see, hey, does gambling in Las Vegas tonight make sense for my values? No.
Well, and you also have it in the proper order. Like if I were to put them in order, that's exactly the right way that I would put them in order. Especially, number 1 has to be God. Like it's not your spouse, it's not your wife, it's God's number 1. And then some people, and I even used to do this until I really understood this, I would put my wife and my kids in the same line. But no, it's not that, because your wife and you are one. So it's God first, then your spouse, then your wife, or if you're female, your husband, but then your kids are after your spouse, and then in the order that you serve. And then everything else goes after that, because if your relationship with God falls apart, your marriage falls apart, your kids fall apart.
Mm-hmm.
Then if your relationship with your wife falls apart, then your kids fall apart and your family and kids, and then everything else falls apart. So it's just, you have to have it in the proper order. So I think it's absolutely fantastic. Now, what's your vision for the Successfully Unemployed show? What's for, let me say that all over again. Stumbled. I shouldn't stumble over the name of the show, huh?
Thanks to the best.
What is your vision for the Successfully Unemployed show? Is it, let's document what you're doing, interviewing people? Like, do you have an idea of the trajectory that anybody listening, they're going to say, man, this is something that Roger's done that I can do, or I'm getting insights that I never would have known if I had not listened to the show?
Absolutely. I love that question, Dustin. And let me just say once again, I'm so honored to be taking over this podcast for you. And I think the reason why I was so excited is because of how similar our values are, because of how similar our journeys are. I mean, for all of our listeners, you came from a football background in college. You were a walk-on. So was I. Right. You worked in a position that was in the software when you had a job.
Yep.
So do I. Right. And, I'm sure I'll get into some of these stories as time goes on, but over the course of the last 6 years, I've overcome being homeless. I've overcome, fighting for my child in court. I've overcome domestic violence. I've overcome all these different things. So when you ask me what my vision is to be an active example of what it looks like to reach for a goal, to strive after it, and to continue to execute day after day after day. I went from literally making no money to now being able to operate a business and still having a job, but being able to provide for my wife, now 4 kids. We live in a very nice home. Our mother also lives with us. We have 2 cars. I mean, bills are paid every single week, every single month. Praise the Lord. One of your favorite expressions.
Praise the Lord.
So my vision for your listeners is to take them on a journey of how they can do it too, and to see it firsthand, not from a professor who's teaching on a strategy, but to show them from firsthand exampleship, hey, this is exactly how it can happen for you. And I'm not anything special. In fact, I scored very low on the ACT coming out of college. I was never a
I think
student.
that's a prerequisite for being an entrepreneur is not being good at school. I more than likely, everybody listening, so you listening, you're much smarter than me. Like, I'm not that smart. I just know how to just common sense help people. That's really what it comes down to. Like, I'm not going to be an engineer. I know that. I'm not going to be a doctor. I don't care to be a lawyer. It's just, I love to serve people. And so happens that's the best way to do a business, is to serve people.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And, coming from that background of not being overly intelligent, I think it makes it easier, because sometimes I think that, in my days of thinking that I was so smart, I would miss the simple things. So,
and I wouldn't ask questions too, because I thought I knew it.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely. So, having this format to be able to take other successfully unemployed people and ask them the questions, and then to apply what they've learned. One more caveat I wanted to share here. As I was listening through the show, I got so encouraged because I've come to know you over the course of the years that we've known each other. And what I observed as I started listening through the episodes, I've seen how you've applied these principles in your business multiple times, time and time again. And I just said to myself, every time I heard one of those things, wow, you took the advice. Wow. And you're very successful, right? You haven't needed a job for over a decade. Correct me if I'm wrong.
So absolutely.
It's been an absolute privilege and honor to see you go through that journey and still applying things. So I plan to take listeners from where they are today to, if it's their desire, to becoming successfully unemployed.
Yeah. And having the idea of asking questions, because, man, when I was young, I was very arrogant. And I still am arrogant, but I try my best to not be. Like, I have a proclivity, or like just my natural essence. I think every single person has the ability to completely be arrogant and prideful. When I read the Bible says that God opposes the proud, but it gives grace to the humble. I don't want God opposing me. I mean, even if that's like, if you're not a believer, if you don't believe in Jesus, then that's totally fine. But if it's at all possible and you're still not a believer and you're thinking, man, it might be possible, then it's much better to not be prideful. Must not. But I'll even prove it another way. If somebody comes to me and they're exuding, like it's like sweat dripping off them, pride and arrogance, because the only thing they're doing is talking about themselves. Only thing they're doing is trying to get something out of me for them. I literally start backing up. All right, good talking to you. And I'll leave. That's literally. I think I changed the mic. Okay, we're good. We have the camera. So for you listening, we have a camera recording. So if you want to watch us on YouTube, check us on Successfully Unemployed. But the camera has been tracking differently, but now we have it. Anyways, so the pride and arrogance that people have turns people off. And when you have that arrogance, when you have that pride, it makes you not care about other people. And that's the best way to make money. Best way to run a business is really to help more and more people. Because I kid you not, the more people that I serve in my life, the more money I make. And the great thing is, it's not a win-lose. Like I win by making money, they lose because they gave me. No. The people that I serve, that I help, that give me money, their lives are changing because of my service to them, helping them get them what they want. Like if somebody doesn't want to invest in real estate, that's okay. They don't have to work with me. Like I'm not trying to take their money, but if somebody wants to invest in real estate and they need a little extra help, well, if you want my time, then hey, this is how much it costs. But at the same time, being available to those people, saying, you know what? I'm not arrogant. I'm not only in it for me. How can I help and serve people? Just like, literally, as we're recording this, I paused the episode because I had friends of mine who's investing in land. I have a friend that teaches and coaches how to land. He's the land master guy. Seth Williams has been on the show with Ari Tipster. And so I paused this because I wanted to connect them, because it's like, you know what? I'm not getting anything out of it, but if I could help two people, then let's go ahead and do it. So I love the idea and the direction you're going. So now with your path, I had already become successful employed. So I was, educating people on how I've done it, but also interviewing people. What is your vision for bringing on, let's say, dynamic people? Well, that's not even the right way to say it. It's not even like for everybody listening, like don't get it wrong, or don't think like it has to be somebody dynamic. Somebody, like I know somebody who's a business owner. You would not know this, but he's a 9-figure business owner. So like 9-figure, that's like a lot of, that's millions and hundreds of millions of dollars. So innocuous in a sense, like just so mild mannered, such a super nice guy, so pleasant. But you would not know that he's 9-figure business owner. He just sold it for 9 figures, and now he's done. He lives in Puerto Rico, so he doesn't have any taxes. He's so excited. But I have another friend, another person that's a good friend of mine. He's got an 8-figure business, and we were talking about investing together. Him being a general partner with me, and what was great is I said, "Hey, would you want to work together? And we could, get our friends to invest." He said, "Yeah, I can do that. In fact, I'm like a small fish among the friends that I have." I'm like, really? You're an 8-figure business owner? You're a small? Okay, but we see eye to eye on values, just like you coming on here. Reason why I said, Roger, you'd be a great fit because the values, your faith and family and the direction you're going, it's an absolute perfect fit because the listeners, for you listening, you're going to be able to get Roger's ahas, just like I had my ahas that I'm trying to share. He's going to be talking to people and they're going to give him nuggets, and he's going to be like, oh, wow, this is something good. Hey, you should really pay attention to that. So that's why I'm super pumped about being able to pass the torch, because I think Successfully Unemployed, the idea of that is not that we're unemployable, because I think it's kind of arrogant. Like no, I would pay Warren Buffett to work for him.
Absolutely.
I'd pay Elon Musk to be his assistant, just to be around him, because you know how much more value I would get out of that than getting money. With that, being able to be on the fly wall, listening to all these great conversations, seeing you, and then hopefully, if you're listening to this, you're doing the same thing. You're saying, well, Roger's public speaking. Well, I'm going to go with starting this business or walking dogs, whatever the business is, then you do it the best and then become successful employed.
Absolutely. And, to go back to your question of how am I going to help speakers to get onto the show. It's really amazing. I had this conversation with a gentleman at Panera, and I find myself in there often. I've seen you in there a couple times.
Quite a few times. That's my office.
Right.
Got to go in for the kids. Yeah, that's where I go. And get my little Diet Coke. And
it's a great place. People, give you the peace and privacy to carry on business. So absolutely awesome place. And I was just in there picking up a cup of coffee, and I saw this gentleman, and we started talking. He had just moved to Phoenix, and we ended up exchanging contact information at the end. And I was encouraging throughout the conversation, hey, make sure you're networking, connecting with people. And he said, okay, so where do I find people? Like, how do I network and connect? I said, okay.
He's asking you this.
He was asking me this. I said, okay, you ready for it? He's like, yeah. And he leans in and he pulls out his pen and his paper. I said, everywhere. Right. When I'm in the grocery store, I'm talking to the people in the produce section as I'm picking up bananas.
Yeah.
I'm talking to people as I'm walking, pumping my gas. I'm talking to people, adding value everywhere I go. And just like you had mentioned, your 8-figure friend who you would never know, who's unassuming, there are people that are like that everywhere. But if you will just open up your mouth, again, show up in the right place. Where are people at? That's the right place. Speak up for yourself. Hey, how's it going? My name's Roger. Nice to meet you. What's your name? Right? Taking an interest in them. And then through that, you're going to be able to build your network of people that you know in all different types of professions.
Yes.
And everyone knows someone. And as you connect with more people, you're going to be able to add more value everywhere you go. And people are going to say, hey, there's someone I'd like you to meet. Right. And it's just an amazing opportunity to be able to connect. And, really, honestly, if I'm telling the complete and honest truth, when I'm spending time with you and the people that you hang out with, you guys are 10 leagues ahead of me. Sometimes it feels like all the wonderful, amazing things that you're doing, that you talk about. But because I know I'm not the smartest person in the room, it gives me an opportunity to learn from the people that have went so far beyond me, and then to connect with them. So as I'm meeting other people, those people have those people in their lives too.
They sure do. And so I keep saying everybody, but like you listening to this, you need to realize, like, I literally just learned something myself. As Roger, when you were just talking, I learned something. And I learned about myself that I don't just talk to people at a grocery store or at the gym. Occasionally I might at the gym, I see somebody wearing similar shoes, or they're lifting like Olympic lifting like I do. Like, hey, you're similar. Let's talk. You talk to just everybody. And so we moved to Nashville, or near Nashville. It's about 30 minutes away. And it's a brand new state, 1,700 miles away from my family, where we were in Arizona. And now I have an opportunity to build a new community. But at the same time, it's hard. I don't do that. So that's something I learned about me and learn, number one, to do. It's communities everywhere. People are everywhere. You don't need to just have, this is the right X, Y, and Z, this group or that. No, they're everywhere. And I also learned that's number one. Learned I got to be doing that. Number two, I need to make myself do it, because I don't want to do that. I really, when I go on a plane, I don't want to talk to the person sitting next to me. As an extroverted, it's weird. I just want to sit and just either veg on my, listen to my music or podcast or whatever. It's just really weird. But I need to make myself do it, even though I'm not an introvert. I still need to make myself do certain things. So thank you. That's really helpful for me.
Wow. I mean, I know you're being very humble right now because we're recording on this podcast, but you are certainly one of the most well-connected people that I know. And I'm sure it all didn't come from people making introductions for you. I'm sure it came also through you meeting and talking to other people. But, I just didn't want to belabor the simplicity of it. Just everywhere you go, there's someone, Ralph Waldo Emerson said, every man is my superior in another fact that I can learn something of him. And I really took that to heart when I read How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie, written in the 1930s. I decided that, what can I learn from this person? What can I learn from that situation? And coming in with that authenticity creates buy-in, because a person knows that you're not trying to sell them something. You're really just trying to get to know them. And when people see that genuine, authentic nature, doors open. And I say this humbly. I mean, going from zero, homeless, sleeping out of my car, to now running a business, having good income through a W-2, having good business income, providing for my wife and my kids. I'm telling you, from the God honest truth, if you can show up, meet people, speak up for yourself, right, and then have a true desire to be in their lives and serve them and help them, everything else will fall into place. But we're going to get much more detailed than that along the way. I just want to make sure you guys have those 3 points.
I love it. And you brought up the book, and I've literally read it 3 or 4 times, How to Win Friends and Influence People. It is so amazing because it got me to stop thinking about myself. Like, really. I'll give you an example of how that worked out. So I was working in regular dead-end J.O.B, the one I actually got laid off on. Most people have heard that story, but I got laid off. But before then, I wanted to get out of a department that I was working in. And then I started thinking, okay, how am I going to get my boss to get me out of this department, away from these evil people? I mean, they're really bad people. How do I get over to this other department? And I started thinking, okay, I'm going to tell him all the reasons why I need to move. Then I remembered How to Win Friends and Influence People. And then I went back and listened to the audiobook again. I changed, instead of saying what I need, to how my moving is going to benefit this man who's an elected official, how he's going to look better as an elected official. Played into his ego. Oh my goodness, I couldn't move fast enough. It was awesome. It was awesome.
Wow.
So for anybody listening, like if you're going to look for a raise, don't tell them why you need a raise. They don't care.
Absolutely.
You tell them why giving them a raise is going to make them more money, make them richer, make them more power, whatever they that they want. Show them why that's going to benefit them. And after reading How to Win Friends and Influence People, that got me thinking, oh my goodness, I need to change how I word things because I need to start focusing on the people. One quick last thing I'll share. So the Real Estate Wealth Builders Conference, we get lots of sponsors. And these sponsors want to be around my attendees. They have a desire for sponsoring. They just don't want to give me money. Oh, here, you're nice. Let me give you money. No. They're doing it because they want something. Well, when I reach out to a sponsor, I do not say, hey, it would be great to have you at my event. Well, why would it be great? People don't say, oh, my event is this and it's blah. No. My first thing is, my subject line is, let's get hundreds of real estate investors connected with you. Oh, hey, that's that. I like that idea. Let me read more. And then I say, hi, whatever the name is. We have an event that I think our investors will love to connect with you because your product is X, Y, and Z. Like, I'm building them up and tell them I have the audience for you because that's what they want as leads. Anyways, you focus on what that person wants and you speak to that, not at all what you want.
Absolutely.
When you do that, oh my goodness, sales close so much faster.
Absolutely. You know what? That reminds me too, if I go into a little bit of the details about how we met in 2022 and I'd approach you there shortly thereafter saying, hey, there may be this great opportunity, let's talk about it. And you declined the opportunity. Right. We still remained cordial. I still spoke to you every time I saw you. I didn't close that relationship.
Yep.
I didn't treat you any different type of way. But when we really reconnected again, started talking about business, I had learned or remembered that, oh, Dustin has this wonderful conference, Real Estate Wealth Builders Conference. And I said, hey, Dustin, I saw you at a Panera. I said, do you need speakers for your conference? I'm actually a professional speaker. I would love to come speak at your conference. And what did you do? You said, no, you cannot speak at my conference. My conference is in 6 weeks. But if you'd like to, feel free to come out to the conference. So I said, okay.
And mind you, we live in Phoenix. Conference is in St. Louis. It's not like right down the street. It's in St. Louis.
Absolutely. And I went home, talked to my wife, said, hey, babe, remember Dustin I told you about, because she knew that we had sat down way back when. Said, hey, he has this conference coming up in 6 weeks. You think we can make it? And we scrambled. We put things together and we found babysitters and said, you know what? We're going to buy tickets at the last minute, get hotels at the last minute. And we showed up and we weren't showing up with any expectation other than to learn and have a good time. Made some life-changing connections there and things that's developed out of that because it came through the no, we can't work together on this business in 2022. No, you can't come speak at my conference. But yes, you can come to the conference, and it came through the following through, deepening that relationship,
Totally.
Seeing how I could serve, seeing how I could help. And then through that, here we are today. I'm also the host of Real Estate Wealth Builders Club in Phoenix, Arizona. I'm emceeing the conference for you now. And look how life has changed. Look how now we're able to work together and to add value, and we've become even better friends since then. So
absolutely.
Truly a blessing. Our wives are friends now. I mean, our kids have the same
name.
The same name. Absolutely.
And now we're literally sitting at a podcast conference, Podfest, and we're sharing an Airbnb with five other guys, so 7 of us in an Airbnb. Super fun. You guys did cold plunge this morning. It's Florida. It's pretty cold in January. I'm going to do it tomorrow morning, but man, Roger, this is so great. I am super pumped to have you be a part of everything that we're doing, Master Passive Income, Real Estate Wealth Builders Conference, and Successfully Unemployed. Great to have you be a part of the team. So I want people to know also you have Inspire to Excel on top of that. Like, you have your own business, even though you're part of Successfully Unemployed, you're helping out with Master Passive Income and RoopCon, and Roop Club, but you also have your own thing. I want everybody to know, how can they find you and connect with you there?
Absolutely. Great question. Well, the best place to connect with me is by listening to this podcast, right? You want to get to know me better, tune into the podcast, right? You're going to get to know me a lot better. You're going to get to hear some of the things that I learn as you learn. But, if you want to find me outside of that, you can find me on social media platforms like Instagram, Twitter, YouTube at I am Roger Wesley. You can find me at rogerwesley.com. If you're curious about working with me and just kind of continuing the conversation, you can certainly email me at info@rogerwesley.com. But, I would say that the number one place that they can, get to know me better, listen to me more, develop that relationship, is by listening to the podcast. And all that social media things, the emails, you can certainly catch me there, but tune in, get to know me. It's going to be a good ride here.
Love it, man.